We got the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL.
What do you want to do? Like last week, start from 10, or you want to start at the top this time? What do you
I say we start from 10. I mean, we kind of know.
start from 10? Okay. Is there going to be another Patrick Mahomes consensus? Is there really much to say about number one?
No, we just say Jay Jets is number one.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, so Jay Jets at 1.
Okay, so then we'll do 10 through 2.
All right.
You want to start? You want me to start?
I'll let you go because.
All right. Making this list. Did you think it was easier or harder than the quarterbacks list?
I think getting back to like number 10.
Yeah.
Like I would say 8 through 10 was a little bit of tough task. Seeing like that 10, because there's a lot of guys you could put in there, but I was just thinking about this year what they could produce and the talent that they have, kind of going into it. So I thought it was a little harder on that back end of the list.
Yeah, there was definitely a few more names because last week I was like, I only had like 2 names. I was thinking like Goff and Geno Smith. For the receivers, there was a handful of names where if you said this name, I'm like, I'm
not mad.
It. Yeah, like, I can see it.
Like there's a couple guys.
There's a few of them. Yeah, but at number 10, I got DK Metcalf. So his second year with Geno Smith, we saw how good Geno could be, and for a lot of these rankings, it was how good their quarterback can be to project their season and how good they are as a player. DK Metcalf, he's been in the league for a few seasons now. We know what he is, an athletic freak that can run by you, he can out jump you, and he can out muscle you. He can win on any level. Geno's, like I mentioned, Geno Smith, another year in that system, another year to get more comfortable. DK bringing in JSN, now that they have 3 legitimate weapons, I think will definitely help out DK because, you can't just leave Tyler Lockett. You can't just leave JSN. Those guys need attention too. So hopefully it'll make the matchup a little bit easier for DK Metcalf, but consistent top talent. We know what he is athletically, and I think, he had a quiet year last year. The last couple of years he's been up and down, been banged up a little bit, but I think DK Metcalf gets back on track, a little more stability in that Seattle offense this year, and I think he has a top 10 year this year and is a top 10 receiver.
Yeah, so I thought about that boy DK at that 10 spot, but, I'm kind of going to a guy that had a little bit quieter year last year than he did previously. Number 10, I'm going Deebo Samuel. We saw what he can do passing in the passing game and the running game 2 years ago now. Had a little bit of a quieter year. He admitted he was kind of out of shape. He said, I'm back and I'm feeling like the best, version of myself in a long time. So expecting that big bounce back year from Deebo Samuel and that San Fran offense, who right now, I mean, they got to kind of solidify like Brock Purdy is going to be our guy to start. No question of Jimmy G, it's Brock Purdy, and then, Trey Lance as well. So Deebo's gadget player. We know he's going to touch the football. His impact on the field is so big for that Niners offense. And, just like DK, there's weapons around him, but I still think he's going to get his amount of touches. So I got Deebo coming in at 10.
Yeah, Deebo was also a name I looked at. I just went with, the other few guys over him just because, like, looking at receivers, I'm thinking, like route running, receiving ability and all that stuff. And I think these guys are better than Deebo, but Deebo offers so much more, versatility after the catch, more ball in his hands rather than, creating separation, route running, and getting open downfield. But, I mean, like I said, you got Deebo Samuel at number 10. I'm not arguing it. Deebo Samuel's a great talent in the NFL. So at number 9, last week doing the top quarterbacks, had a Detroit Lion, just missed the list, but now I got one just making the list with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Coming into his 3rd year, young guy, super, super talented. He's more of that, in between the numbers, middle of the field slot. He's gonna have over 100 receptions. He's gonna get all the targets. The yards are gonna be there. Amon-Ra St. Brown is like the classic chain moving receiver. Really, really good at the catch point. Nothing crazy athletic wise. Doesn't wow you with his speed or jumping ability, but it's just always a solid option. And, is one of the reasons Jared Goff has looked so good in Detroit is because Amon-Ra St. Brown is such a good separator, really good at, finding the open space in the field, beating zones, and just getting open whenever they need a big play. And I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to continue to grow and continue to have a really good season, build off of the really good season last year, and be a top 10 receiver.
I really messed with that pick at the 9, man. I didn't get Amon-Ra on my list, but I love him as a player. I think he's a great talent. And hopefully next year I'll be able to put him on my list a little bit higher. But number 9, man, we just talked about this guy today, man. Aging receiver and Mike Evans, who I got at my 9 spot. And he's just been Mr. Consistent since coming in the league in 2014. Always finds a way to reach that 1,000-yard receiving mark. Even with the injuries he battles, he goes out there, he competes. One of the big, tall wide receivers on the outside. Now, question mark at QB, obviously made me hesitant, want to put him on this list, but Mike Evans has seen it all, the goods, the greats, the bads, and he's found a way each and every year to go out there and be one of the top receivers in this league. So I think he'll find another way to do it this year. If he stays healthy, he's going to be up there in terms of receivers. I mean, he's just the guy that could do it all. Mike Evans, I got him at the 9.
Yeah, not a bad pick. 1,000 yards in every single one of his seasons so far. Crazy stat. Like you mentioned, no matter who they put back at quarterback, he just seems to be productive. So that's a decent name. I'm not mad at it. Coming in at number 8, some might say is rivalry bias, but this guy is someone that, last year kind of had question marks, kind of had the talent to be a number 1 receiver, but we saw him jump and actually become that number 1 solidify outside receiver, and that's CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb has all the talent that you would want in your number 1 receiver. You can line him up on the outside. You can line him up in the slot. Really doesn't matter where he's at. You saw last year with the injuries to Michael Gallup, kind of a weaker receiving room. Dak leaned on CD heavily, and he was able to deliver a really, really good talent in that offense. We might see it take a step back. Kellen Moore is gone, so not too sure if he'll put up the same numbers as he did last year, but in terms of someone on the outside who can, just create separation, get open, make the big play anywhere on the field, CeeDee Lamb has got to be up there. So as an Eagle fan, probably, the player I dislike the least on the Cowboys. I like CeeDee Lamb. He's a good player. I wanted the Eagles to draft him in 2020, but I couldn't get to him. We won't talk about that draft.
So I already know you're not going to like the rest of my list. But listen, no bias, number 8. I just got CD. I mean, you touched on it, so we can just kind of move on. I got CD at that 8 spot as well. You could go ahead and take 7.
All right, number 7, I have a player who was kind of forgotten last year. Was in a weird situation, but when him and his quarterback are healthy, they're the number 1 duo in the league, and I got Cooper Kupp. We saw what he did a few years ago, a little triple crown action. Matthew Stafford, we talked about, him throwing to other players on the team, and it just doesn't look like it's ever going to happen. Cooper Kupp, when he's healthy, when he's on that field with Matthew Stafford, is just going to dominate the game, route running. He's really, really quick off the line of scrimmage in those tight spaces, catches everything. Only real questions with Cooper Kupp is durability, getting up there a little bit in age, but number 1 receiver, gets all the targets, all the volume, catches everything, scores a touchdown or 2 like every single game. If he's on the field, Cooper Kupp is going to dominate, so I got him at number 7.
So, yeah, he played 9 games last year and had 812 yards, 6 touchdowns, 75 receptions, and you mentioned he was kind of lost. So, I didn't have him at 7. Now, here's where I decided to shake things up a little bit. I got your boy, A.J. Brown. I got him coming in at that number 7 mark. Now, can he be higher? For sure. We saw him dominate last year. We saw him ball. But when Cooper Kupp's on that field, the fact is Cooper Kupp is probably a top 3 wide receiver, if not one of the best. So A.J. Brown, he's Mr. Consistent, kind of like Mike Evans. I got him at that 7. Expect another big year out of him. Paired up with Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts only getting better. I wanted him, maybe a little bit higher on this list, but I just couldn't put him there just quite yet, just because, we've seen him in Tennessee be good in a situation and system not really play to him. And last year we finally got to see him be really great. So I want to see him take that another step this year and continue it, and he might be rising on the list. But for now, I got A.J. Brown at 7.
Yeah, shocker. I'm higher on AJ Brown, but we'll get to that. Number 6. This player, it just felt weird to have him rated this low, but when I just look at the names above him, I'm like, I don't think I would take him over these players. But number 6, I got Stephon Diggs. I think Diggs is one of the best route runners, like just one of the best pure separators at the wide receiver position. The stuff during the offseason worries me a little bit. Not too sure why he's stuck on, a playoff game 5 months later when that's kind of like in the past. It's time to get ready on the next season.
All you could think about, though, man, whole offseason, just to sit there and just think about that one moment, man.
Yeah, or you can, go in and build for it towards next season. Getting kicked out of camp, like, clearly it's something there. Head coach came out and said it was something like that they're worried about. But so I got some concerns in terms of, on the field stuff with Diggs and that team. But in terms of just a pure talent, I mean, Diggs has been consistent the last few years, especially once he got to Buffalo. Him and Josh Allen, that duo, he just elevated pretty much both of their careers. They both seem like to be the perfect fit for each other. The route running, the hands, the releases, separation. Stephon Diggs has it all, but I got him at number 6.
Number 6, man, I got that boy Cooper Kupp, man. You just touched on him. I mean, route runner, just skilled. Single-handedly, him and Matthew Stafford. After Odell went down in that Super Bowl, which Odell was having, the game of his career and kind of legacy game almost, if you will. And he went down with that terrible knee injury, torn ACL, whatever. Last drive of the game, I mean, the Rams, they couldn't move the ball at all. Who do they go to? Cooper Kupp. Who do they go to? Cooper Kupp. It's just Cooper Kupp every play. And he got into the end zone, and he rightfully deserved. I think he won MVP that year in the Super Bowl. I mean, this dude, when he's on the field, I mentioned 9 games, 800 yards receiving or whatever. So you put him in that category of him playing 16, 17 games. I mean, this is the dude that broke records in this league. And one of the most talented, finds the end zone, is quick. He can do it all. He can go deep. He can run across the middle. He can run any type of route you really want from Cooper Kupp. I got him at the 6 just because of that question of the health. And if he can stay on the field has always been the biggest question with him. So I got Cooper Kupp coming in at 6.
Yeah, so we get into the top 5. And at number 5, I got A.J. Brown. Now, you touched on him, and I agree with everything you said. But, watching the Philadelphia Eagles last year, every single game, watching all the offensive snaps and everything, that they were doing, A.J. Brown was just a different, he was a different player on that Eagles team. When I think about A.J. Brown last year, the main thing that comes to my mind is the Steelers game and the Titans game. And, in the Titans game, he literally scores a touchdown. It gets called back. In the very next play, Jalen Hurts just goes, whatever. It's A.J. Brown's over there. Throw it up to him again. He comes down with it against the Steelers. I mean, double coverage. It doesn't matter. You saw the play after. He's pointing at the receivers. I think this past season, we really saw the Philadelphia Eagles and that offense unlock A.J. Brown and see him become a true 3-level receiver. Because you mentioned in Tennessee, he was a really good option, but it was always him, catching those little slants from Tannehill and then breaking it for 70 yards. It was always run after catch for him in Tennessee, whereas he comes to Philadelphia and pretty much throughout the season, Jalen Hurts just turned him into a deep threat. All of his catches were deep down the field. Jalen Hurts' only touchdown throw in the Super Bowl, deep down the field to A.J. Brown. What he's able to do, down the field, jump ball, dominate these defensive backs physically, It's just, he might be the best at that in terms of physical presence, going up and getting the football. Still gets it done on the slant routes and the intermediate. But I mean, listen, I met AJ Brown. I've seen him in person. When these guys talk about how, physically dominant he is, it's true. Like, I'm a solid like 6'1", maybe 6'2" on a good day. I had my basketball shoes on. We were hooping. And AJ Brown was like clearly bigger than me. He's a solid 6'2", maybe 6'3", and he's definitely jacked. So, I mean, in terms of lining up and guarding AJ Brown physically, it's got to be one of the toughest things to do in the league. Great receiver, great connection with Jalen Hurts, kind of along the same lines of Diggs and Allen, where when they linked up, they both elevated, Hurts and Brown elevated each other's career. And I think, we continue to see top 5 production from AJ Brown this upcoming season.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. You mentioned Diggs. I mean, Diggs was, good. Obviously, quarterback play came into that in Minnesota and whatnot.
Yeah, but we didn't see Diggs take that elite step until when he went in Buffalo with Josh Allen, and he had a better quarterback.
Yep.
He was always a good, solid receiver, but
yeah. Maybe on the outside looking in top 10, maybe on the back end, but never up there in conversation. Now, this is where, I mean, I know I might have offended you on the list, but now this is where I might offend all these diehard Jamar Chase stands, because I got him at the number 5 spot, man. And I watch the Bengals, at least twice a year. I watch them more. They played the Dolphins last year. And Jamar Chase, man, he talks a lot of, he went on the podcast, man, said he hates the Browns. He hates playing them. They talk a lot. Well, maybe because Denzel Ward takes a 101-yard pick 6 against you because you can't run your route. But Jamar Chase, nonetheless, stop hating. Very talented receiver. I mean, just like the rest of these guys, he can go get it at all levels, man. Coming into the league was a great receiver, and he's only become better. You pair him up on the outside, T. Higgins, that wide receiver core, the Joe Burrow connection, it only continues to get better. He is, up there with the most talented players. Number 5, I think that's the correct spot for Jamar Chase. I mean, I looked up his stats against the Browns, and I think it was 3 games. He's under 200 yards. So, maybe it's just because when I watched him with my own eyes and, the actual game film of the one game where he actually did well, it wasn't him doing well. It was lack of defense. But,
yeah.
I mean, nonetheless, man, really good receiver. Hats off to Jamar Chase. But I got him at the number 5, man.
So, spoiler, I'm higher on Jamar Chase than you are, but where I will give you credit in terms of, looking at these names in the top 5, I do think he is the most volatile in terms of boom or bust, whereas I can see Jamar Chase being the number 1 receiver, and I can also see him falling outside of his top 5. So you got him at number 5, a little lower. I'm not mad at it. I just personally have him a little higher. I get it. At number 4, I have Tyreek Hill. Now, in terms of speed, athletic ability, just being able to run by people and create the big play, Tyreek Hill is the best in the league at that. I mean, that Ravens game, there's a few games this season where Tyreek Hill is catching passes, and it's like, are they doing 7-on-7 drills? Like, is this routes on air? Where's the defense at? There's no one near him. The jokes, Tua's underthrowing him. Doesn't matter. He's 10 yards away from every other defender on the field. So, I mean, you can underthrow him by 5 yards and he'll still catch the ball and go score. I don't think anyone can overthrow Tyreek Hill. He's just that dynamic of an athlete. And, he's put up his best numbers so far in his career in Miami. I think in terms of receptions and I want to say yards, I think he had the most in Miami. His best year yet. Coming over in that offense McDaniels run, he's Tua's number 1 read and he's Tua's last read. He's just gonna get the ball. He's gonna demand the targets. He's gonna get the volume because he's Tyreek Hill, the fastest, the most explosive player in the league. So I got him at number 4. Tyreek Hill is a great receiver.
Yeah. Spoiler,
Yeah.
I'm a little higher on Tyreek Hill.
I figured.
Number 4, man, I got another guy who, team I don't really like. And you mentioned the question marks of, the concerns of what he said in the media with Stephon Diggs. But, other than that, football-wise, his ability to route run, his hands, and just being able to catch passes is up there with the most elite. We've seen him do it. And, he kind of had a point, but that's not what you go out and say and kind of throw it fit the way he did. But they do have the weapons. They have the talent. They have the defense, and it really hasn't worked. But, on the other side of it, you're on the other side of Patrick Mahomes. So, you could go as far as say, is Patrick Mahomes is the reason, not really you and your team. But, they were 13 seconds away from beating Mahomes finally. But Diggs, he's up there. Yeah, I see Chase doing better than Diggs, but I just think Diggs is more of a clean player inside. You know what you're going to get. Will he be number 3? Probably not. But can Jamar Chase be 3? Yeah, but his floor is also lower, like we said. So I got Stephon Diggs coming in at that 4 spot.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. And like we mentioned, Diggs complaining about, him not getting the ball enough, his targets. He had over 150 targets, 100 receptions. So he's getting the looks. He's getting the ball. It's just, like you mentioned.
Just when you're losing,
Patrick
everything
Mahomes
gets...
Patrick
it
Mahomes
makes
effect,
everyone
man.
mad, bro.
Yeah, it's tough. So top 3, coming in at number 3, I got Jamar Chase, man. Like I mentioned, I think he has the most, movement out of these top 5 players in the list. And you have him a little on the lower side. I got him a little on the higher side. So I think Jamar Chase, talent-wise, he pretty much has everything. He can win anywhere on the field. But I think the biggest thing that helps Jamar Chase right now in his career is playing with Joe Burrow, his college quarterback. Now, I do believe Jamar Chase, with his talent, he would be a great receiver on any team. But having that built-in chemistry with his college quarterback, coming into the NFL to where there was really no learning curves or hurdles for him to get on page with his quarterback. They go in week 1, Joe Burrow has the utmost trust and confidence in Jamar Chase, and you get to see that on display time and time again. We saw it in the playoffs against the Chiefs last year. Bengals were down. Who does Joe Burrow go to on 3rd or 4th down? Jamar Chase throws it up into double coverage. He comes down with the ball. Joe Burrow believes in this guy, and the talent and the numbers prove. Injuries, he's been a little bit banged up last year, but when Jamar Chase is fully healthy, there's pretty much nothing he can't do on the football field.
Yeah, and for my number 3, man, I kind of put him at 3 just because of his team's situation. Now, this guy, very talented, probably the best route runner in the NFL, and Davante Adams, man, over there in Las Vegas. I think his production, is taking a hit last year and then this year as well. But you can't deny his skill and his ability to beat DBs off the line of scrimmage. And you mentioned like Jamar Chase, Davante Adams, very complete receiver, gets it done on every level of the field. It's just that QB play comes into play. That QB play is a huge factor for me.
Yeah. So, at number 2, I got Davante Adams. You mentioned I still believe he's the best just route runner in the league. Like watching Davante Adams highlights and clips and stuff, it's like you're watching a different position like on the football field. Like the way he moves and the way he separates and just everything he does is so different from everyone else, and he does it at such an elite high level. And last year, we got to see another aspect of his game where he was already a top receiver in this league, and then he goes to Oakland and adds another element to his game. And I believe last year he had the highest, depth per target or depth per reception in his career playing in Vegas with Derek Carr. When he was in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, it was more of the volume, quick slants. Aaron Rodgers would hit him over top a lot of the times, but he was more of that, we need a play, we need a first down, we need a quick reception. Rodgers with that quick release, just get the ball into Davante Adams' hands and let him work. Whereas in Oakland last year, I mean, he's catching 20-yard touchdowns. He's catching bombs everywhere, beating guys after the catch, routing people up, making them like go like 20 yards away from him. That one play against the Chargers last year when he ran that post corner and the fucking defenders like doing a 360 and Adams is like toe tapping on the sideline. Like it just his separation, his release, everything he does on the football field is, if it wasn't for Justin Jefferson, I think he'd be the best receiver. So I mean, I'm a big Devontae Adams fan. I love what he does on the field, and I think he's the number 2 receiver in the league.
No doubt. I mean, you touched on it perfectly. But I think we all know who I got too, man. That's the cheetah man, Tyreek Hill. You talked about it, that Ravens game where he was just behind the defense. Now, Devontae, obviously you have to game plan for him, but when you go into a game against Tyreek Hill, it's a whole different type of game plan for defensive coordinators, man. And just that you think you're high enough for Tyreek Hill, you're probably not anyways. So if you're willing to send that blitz, you got to make sure it gets there. Otherwise, he's going to be behind your defenders in no time. And obviously, one of the best deep ball guys. But I was very impressed with watching his hands, and his ability to catch kind of balls in traffic this year or the past year. He did a good job there. And underneath, I mean, obviously utilized with his speed. You get him out in open field. Whole different breed as well. And honestly, before the Tua injury, probably would have been the league's leading receiver, if not for it, last year as well. So coming in year 2 with Tua, both of them stay healthy. Big things for this duo. I mean, definitely the most electric to watch on the field when it comes to almost any position. Just his raw speed, it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Tyreek Hill. Explosive athlete, fastest player in the league, and then, I mean, we'll just touch on it. Justin Jefferson at number 1. I mean, not really much else to say other than every year, whenever he finishes the season, it's like, oh, Justin Jefferson, all-time leader at blank through blank years. Like, it's always that. So, I mean, he could just continue to be amazing, set records, the volume, the production, receptions, yards, touchdowns, everything. Justin Jefferson can do it all. Most all-around complete receiver at number 1.
Yeah, J-Jet's 1, man. I don't need to say anything. Probably going to do it again this year.
Yeah, probably.
Him and Kirk. So, I mean, unanimous 1.